The story begins with Leah, a young woman enjoying a fun evening with her friend before taking a taxi to Putney. But during the ride, she is suddenly kidnapped. She isn't the only victim, others are taken too. A young boy is snatched while boarding a truck, and a drug-addicted girl named Shona is abducted on her way back from buying drugs. Soon, more people are kidnapped under similar circumstances. Leah wakes up in a dark, unfamiliar room with an unconscious man beside her. Confused and terrified, she leaves the room and realizes she's inside a strange, mansion-like house. She discovers two more unconscious people, then panics and pounds on the door, but it won't open. Every exit is sealed, trapping her inside. Overwhelmed, Leah faints. When she regains consciousness, she meets a priest named Father Duffy. Another man, Jay, assures him that Leah only had a panic attack and she's fine now. Leah soon notices that 7 other kidnapped people are also awake. They all exchange uneasy glances, trying to make sense of their bizarre situation. Suddenly, a strange voice echoes through a speaker. The voice, belonging to someone who calls themselves the Watcher, announces that they've all been randomly chosen to play a game. He reassures them their loved ones are safe, then explains that the house contains 75 cameras and hidden microphones. They're being watched at all times. Finally, the terrifying truth is revealed. The game requires them to kill each other, and only one person will survive to claim a prize of $5 million. The group falls into panic and confusion. Francis tries to calm them, but Shona insists they must escape. Jay, a police officer, pulls out a gun, claiming the kidnappers left it with him for a reason. This only heightens the tension, especially with Albee, who recalls how a cop once hurt his brother when he was 16. Father Duffy tries to restore order while Francis urges Jay to put the gun away, knowing it makes everyone more anxious. The tension escalates further when Max, one of the players, threatens the Watcher through the cameras, vowing to sue if anything happens to him. But Jay warns everyone, even if someone wins, the Watcher will never let them leave alive. The group begins to argue. Albee grows impatient, saying they can't just sit there doing nothing. Jay insists the gun is meant to eliminate threats, but Albee argues they should think strategically. Father Duffy suggests focusing their energy on escaping instead of playing the twisted game. Together, they attempt to break down the main door using a dining table, but it doesn't budge. Jay orders everyone to split up and search for another way out. Leah warns Father Duffy that cameras are everywhere. Meanwhile, Claire finds wine and seems more excited about drinking than escaping. Others, including Jay, search the basement but find nothing. Cynthia breaks down in tears, while Francis smirks and glares into the cameras. Frustrations rise and arguments flare, especially with Claire, who would rather drink than help. Despite the chaos, Jay, Leah, Father Duffy, and Cynthia remain determined not to play the game. Then, in a strange twist, the kitchen suddenly provides food: cold chicken breasts and boiled potatoes. The group eats. Jay saves some for later and gives Leah his share of potatoes, since she doesn't eat meat. At the dining table, they begin to introduce themselves. Father Duffy reveals his full name is Michael Duffy. Jay introduces himself as a cop. Francis says he's a music composer, and Cynthia is revealed to be his wife. Francis quickly becomes rude when the conversation grows tense. Max Roy, a clothing designer, introduces himself, and Claire recognizes him from New York. Max, in turn, recognizes Claire as a former tennis star. Leah shares that she's a dancer, but Claire mocks her. Shona then reveals she has a tracking device on her ankle, explaining that if she doesn't return tomorrow, she'll be sent back to jail due to her drug addiction. Albee, an aspiring rapper, shows off his skills, briefly lightening the mood. Eventually, the group organizes sleeping arrangements. Father Duffy and the married couple, Cynthia and Francis, take a room together. Claire shares a room with Shona. Max shares with Albee, while Jay and Leah share another. Tensions continue to grow. Shona discovers nude photos of Claire, leading to an argument between them. In another room, Leah learns Jay has a young son who just started school. Jay tells her not to worry, saying dogs know how to take care of themselves. Leah explains she isn't married but has a dog she loves like a child. Meanwhile, Cynthia and Francis bond, but it becomes clear Francis is willing to do anything, even kill, for the $5 million. The next morning, chaos erupts. An intruder sneaks into the house and attacks Jay. They fight fiercely, and Leah screams in terror, causing the assailant to flee. Jay is injured in the struggle, and everyone rushes out of their rooms. Demanding answers, Jay insists someone must be behind the attack, but no one confesses. Father Duffy urges him to keep faith in humanity. Meanwhile, Max and Francis continue speaking in French, which offends Albie and sparks a heated argument. Suddenly, another strange noise echoes through the house. The group rushes to investigate, but the unknown assailant manages to escape. Desperate and frustrated, everyone pounds on the doors, but they still won't open. Cynthia notices Francis smirking while the rest of them cry in fear. Trying to calm things down, Jay gives Claire the key to the drinks cabinet she had been begging for earlier. When food and wine appear, nearly everyone drinks heavily, except Jay, Leah, and Father Duffy. Francis tries flirting with Leah, but she calls him out, pointing to how upset his wife Cynthia is. Albie turns up the music and begins rapping, and soon the others start dancing. Albie dances with Cynthia, which enrages Francis even more. Later, Francis sneaks into the bathroom, breaks wine glasses, and hides the shards, planning to use them as weapons. When he returns, he finds Albie still flirting with Cynthia, and the two men begin fighting. In the chaos, Albie accidentally shoves Cynthia. She falls back, strikes her head on a steel railing, and dies instantly. The group rushes to her screams, but it's too late. Jay, furious, locks Albie inside a room and bars the door with a pipe as punishment. Albie pounds and begs to be let out, swearing it was an accident. Later, food arrives again, but there's less than before. Jay announces the shortage, while Albie continues screaming for a share from behind the door. Father Duffy insists they can't starve him, but Leah angrily demands that Jay give him something. Begrudgingly, Jay hands over a single potato, which only enrages Albie further. When Jay realizes Father Duffy has secretly brought Albie more food, he storms over with his gun. As the door opens, Albie escapes and brutally beats Jay with a metal pipe. The group watches in horror as Jay dies. In his final moments, he passes his gun to Father Duffy. The next morning, only 6 players remain. Their rations arrive with extra wine and a chilling note. Good work. They believe it's a reward for Jay's death. Racked with guilt, Francis visits Albie. Albie expresses remorse, and the two appear to reconcile, until later, when Father Duffy and Leah find Albie hanging from the ceiling, having taken his own life. Tensions rise further. Francis shows signs of a breakdown, while Shona and Claire's rivalry turns violent. They slap each other before Shona storms out. Father Duffy confides in Max, saying he's the only one he can rely on. But soon after, Claire stabs Shona with a corkscrew, killing her. Amid the chaos, Francis attacks Leah in her room. He rips a light fixture from the wall and throws it into the sink, electrocuting her. Meanwhile, Father Duffy catches Max stealing food. Pointing Jay's gun at him, he orders Max to take only his share. Later, Claire lies to Father Duffy, claiming she killed Shona in self-defense. When Father Duffy finds Leah barely alive in the bathroom, Claire sneaks off to find more wine but instead discovers Max greedily eating. She proposes an alliance. At the same time, Francis enters Leah's room, pretending to be concerned. He feigns surprise at her condition and claims she must have committed suicide. Father Duffy confronts him, accusing Francis of being responsible for both Cynthia's and Leah's deaths, calling him out for trying to profit from the game. Enraged, Francis demands Father Duffy shoot him. Instead, he seizes the gun and shoots the priest in the stomach. But Leah is still alive and witnesses everything. She flees to Francis's room, where she discovers shards of broken glass hidden inside the toilet tank. Meanwhile, Francis begins shouting into the cameras, demanding his prize money. Delirious and obsessed, he declares himself the winner. As he searches the house for survivors, Leah accidentally makes a noise that gives away her hiding place. Francis corners her. They struggle and Leah stabs him in the leg. Their fight escalates until both tumble over a balcony, crashing onto the dining table below. Leah survives the fall, but Francis is impaled by a shard of glass that pierces his heart. He dies instantly. Shaken and exhausted, Leah watches as the front door finally opens, flooding the house with bright light. On the floor, a bag waits, presumably filled with the $5 million. Leah walks toward it, but then notices 4 other survivors, all traumatized, emerging from their own horrors. As the film closes, Leah realizes with terror that the nightmare isn't over. The game is still being played. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.